there is a need to boost foreign direct investment inflows and facilitate the nation's industrial growth. The present administration needs to step up policy implementation in the areas of infrastructure development and promote strict regulatory measures that will help protect businesses operating in the country. Well, with me on the show to examine ways we can attract more investments into the country, he is a policy research and policy advisory. That's the head of research and policy advisory at Budget Nigeria. His name is Mr. Inyobong Hussein. It's good to have you. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Yeah, good afternoon, Tolu, and thanks for having me.
Yes, I know that you've been following this space and a lot of developments around attracting investments into the country. We are trying to change that perception of Nigeria. We see the president moving from France and, all around speaking to those that need to be spoken to, like the AFDB chairpresident, like the likes of the WTO DG, on and on. But my question really to you is, what do you think about all of these moves aimed at making Nigeria that preferred place for investors to bring their money?
Yeah, thanks, Tolu, for that question. I mean, the moves made by the federal government in the last 1 month have sort of boosted investor confidence. Some of the challenges or concerns that the business community had consistently, put forward in the last couple of years seem to have been addressed by this government in the first few weeks of its administration. I was looking at the data in terms of capital importation, foreign direct investment, and foreign portfolio investment, as the case may be. It would interest you to know that in the last 10 years, 2022, for foreign direct investments, that was the year we had the lowest volume of foreign direct investments in the last 10 years. We had less than $500 million in foreign direct investments in 2022. For foreign portfolio investments, it reduced from 2021 to 2022 by 25%, from about $6.7 billion to just $5.3 billion. And what was largely responsible for that, as you would know, were the capital controls and the issues around the availability of FX, as you would know. I mean, with the somewhat convergence of the different windows for FX, or the unification, as you would put it, although the federal government, says that they are still on, working around unifying the different windows. But with what has happened, it has built confidence. I mean, businesses now know that it might be possible to bring in capital and take it out easily, because that was one of the major challenges with the previous administration. You saw what happened with the air.
We're trying to make a point before network issues and all of that, but we have you back now. I'd like you to land on your first submission in responding to moves by government to, of course, attract investment into the country.
Oh yeah, so summarily, I'll just say anything that would make the entry and exit of foreign capital is one that would attract, foreign direct investments or foreign portfolio investments, as the case may be. So government should continue. I mean, they've started well. You've seen the feedback from capital markets, the money markets, and you've seen how somewhat investor confidence has, come up in the last couple of weeks. So we hope that a lot of all those, monetary and fiscal policy objectives that they are, outlined in their manifesto are things that they will bring to the fore in the next couple of weeks.
Interesting. But when this investment come in, like we'll see, it will land in a state, maybe Lagos, maybe Abuja. And some investors will not like to go to some places, for example, security issues, concerns, and all of that. So what kind of discussion do you expect from subnationals, the governors? How will they support the government in achieving this goal?
I mean, definitely, if you look at the ease of doing business and the different components around the ease of doing business, for things around infrastructure, there are certain kinds of infrastructure that are within the realm of the states that you would expect they would invest in. If you look at the state of the roads in a lot of the states, you see that a lot is left to be desired. If you look at things around even investments in human capital development, like education, which is supposed to provide the labor for these, firms when they come in, is also something that the states over time have not prioritized in terms of investments. Things around also healthcare, which would obviously make labor more productive, are things that over time the states have not invested in. So states would need to prioritize investment in physical infrastructure as it regards roads. I mean, now that the powers to actually generate uh, electricity, at some national level has been granted the states, you would also expect that states will also begin to make massive investments in electricity, create sort of clusters for businesses to be able to generate electricity, create jobs as the case may be. So investments in electricity, investments in roads, investments in human capital development, specifically for education and health, are things that I think the states can begin to, sort of prioritize, especially as regards their budgets. Also for issues around taxation. I mean, there was a video I saw for somebody who tried to transport goods from one particular state to another, and he had to pay 75 taxes. These are things that businesses, these are things that can kill businesses. On one hand, the government says it's not collecting enough taxes. And on another hand, it would look like we are taxing businesses to death. So the harmonization of taxes, there needs to be, one uniform approach as regards, the reform around taxation at the subnational level as well. And when states begin to do this, you would see that some of the policies carried out by the federal government to, enable the business environment will be complemented by states.
Debt remains scary if we are to add the securitization of about 20 something trillion naira, adding to 46 trillion naira that we owe as a country. And I spoke earlier with my first guest about subsidy removal and its implications for the entire economy. But I'm going to ask you, bridging this gap is something that is very, very important. What's the discussion around cost of governance? Many are worried that should also be looked at. How would you react to this?
It has to be at the top of any administration that has come in. We've seen over the years that there's a lot of waste, regardless of the fact that we are not raising enough revenues to be able to carry out very important expenditure of government to improve the lives of people. But there's a lot of waste as regards how government allocates resources. If you look at, just think basic things around the convoy of the chief executives of states. A governor would be driving and you see 20, 30, 40 cars in his convoy. Granted, they will tell you, oh, this is not necessarily in the original fleet of the governor. And you have other political appointees, who would usually join such governments. But in the eye of the average citizen, when he sees you in that convoy, 20, 30, 40, 60 cars. And these are cars, they are SUVs with V8 engines, and the tanks of those cars are fueled, to full capacity on a daily basis. And this has very huge, puts a very huge strain on the also the resources of the states. There are certain activities of the state that by now they should not be, getting involved with things around, religious tourism, as the case may be, with whether it's to Jerusalem or to Hajj. Anybody who wants to go on these trips should be able to pay for these trips, right? Government should redirect investments in those sort of activities to core areas that would affect the life of the average person, whether you are religious or not. If you look at things around, it was so sad. The Speaker of the House of Representatives released a list of his appointees. If I'm not wrong, over 20 of them. We can't be talking, having discussions around the reduction in the cost of governance. And it doesn't seem like the attitude or the behavior of persons who have taken the reins at this very, challenging or critical time have not seen the need to, have that behavioral change as it regards the reduction in the cost of governance. So these are areas that the states and even the federal government, really need to prioritize. People need to begin to see that the government itself is taking haircuts, is tightening its belt, and a lot of this wasteful expenditure that we would often do are things that we are no longer, getting involved in. I was looking at the 2023 budget again and looking at those issues around the citing of projects in agencies that do not have the mandate to carry out those sort of projects. And it looks like in the 2023 budget, regardless of the fact that we've seen that we're not raising enough revenues to fund the budget, those sort of expenditures, still replicate themselves across several MDAs within the budget. I still repeat it. Why should a polytechnic in Ukana in Akwa Ibom State has a budget line to provide, whether it's computers or so, to the University of Calabar, a polytechnic providing or implementing a project for a federal university? You see the Salt Products Institute constructing the one in, whether it's in Ilorin, constructing a project in Lagos. We do not have the funds for this laxity or for this waste, because we know that the reasons why they would often cite these projects in these ministries or these MDAs are because it's very easy for them to draw these funds from those places, as the case may be. As it is, the country is bleeding. We do not have the funds for these frivolities. So everybody needs to tighten their belt. If there were avenues before, with the way the budget is being crafted, where, persons could make massive gains at the expense of the state does not have that luxury at the moment to continue with that sort of wasteful expenditure. Street lights across, at this point in time, we still have budget lines, 500 million naira for street lights in remote communities. Are these what those remote communities need? This is we find ourselves in a situation where we still have to go and borrow money to distribute to those remote communities as cash transfer to be able to, deal with the effects of whether it's subsidy removal or the unification of the exchange rate, as the case may be. So governments need to really sit up, both at the federal government level, at the state government level. Without that, there's not much that would change.
Before I let you go, I'm worried about the outlook. Already, it's the end of another quarter, half year gone, and we expect a lot of results coming even from companies and all of that. With some of these bold steps taken by government, what are you thinking? What will play out moving on in the year? The economy generally.
I mean, with the removal of subsidy, we expect inflation to increase. I mean, in the short term, to increase by at least 300 to 400 basis points. So we're expecting the next quarter, we're going to see the effects of that subsidy removal, really kicking. And if the planned electricity tariff hike also happens, that would further, have an impact of inflation, as the case may be. With the unification of the different windows for the exchange rates, or the convergence of the different windows, we expect to see an increase in, foreign direct investments, as the case may be, foreign portfolio investments, as the case may be. With regards to job creation and poverty, for poverty, obviously, with inflation comes a reduction in the disposable income of Nigerians. So the immediate effect is that you have more people that will be pushed further down the poverty line. But we're hoping that in the medium to long term, if government supports these policies with other policies that they have put in place to try to improve the ease of doing business with regards to investments in health, education, as the case may be, if they follow through with all of these plans, as the case may be, we expect to see rebound in terms of economic growth, productivity, as the case may be.
It's a good way to leave it. Interesting conversation as usual with you. Mr. Ineo Bongu Sane is the head research and policy advisory with Budget Nigeria. Thank you so much and do enjoy the rest of your day. And happy holidays. For those of you that will be on
Happy
holidays,
holidays, Tolu.
we'll be
Thanks for
here
having me.
bringing you up to speed with happenings around the world of business. Thank you so much.